Hey guys, welcome to another Tuesday live stream. Hopefully you can hear and see me, and if you could give me a 1 in the comments, I would be very appreciative. I do see little blinking lights and green indicators, so I think I am good. Hopefully you guys are having an outstanding Tuesday. It's been a weird day for me. Just one of those things. I don't know. Won't get into it too much. All right, I see a bunch of 1s, which means we are working. So I really appreciate that. Hopefully we can have a good show. Tonight's show is going to be about coping with anxiety. I will say this. There's one thing that's just blows my mind is how the synchronicity of certain things keep coming up. What I mean is that it's like there'll be a topic, idea, or a discussion, and then a lot of things just come together to really kind of point me in the right direction, and that was the case today. There was some discussion about anxiety on Discord, plus there's some other folks I'm working with who are dealing with very, very similar things, so that will be the topic for tonight. But before I jump into that, let me see if I can remember how to do all of this stuff. First things first, disclaimers. I am not a therapist. I am an individual, much like you, who has developed tips and techniques over the course of this last 8 years on how to deal with toxic environments with an ex, narcissistic ex, potentially, and how to basically try to get through the other side and do some things to minimize the damage to yourself and to, hopefully, your children. You do have the opportunity and the ability on YouTube to change your name to something different than your own name. So if you are worried about somebody stalking you, you can do that. I do need to find a link to be able to share on how to do that. Diagnosis, be very careful when you are throwing around terms like NPD or borderline or cluster B and all that kind of stuff, especially if you do not have a medical diagnosis, because it will just hurt you. You don't want to be in the middle of a court case and you're spouting off about NPDs and cluster Bs and a dark triad, and the first thing they'll ask you is, really, and where did you get your psychology degree? You know, that type of thing. Just be careful, because they can turn that around and make it look like you are trying to alienate people or the kids. If you want to get a hold of me, oh, you know what? I don't think I fixed this. Dang it. Let me try this real quick. I was gonna say, if you want to get a hold of me, let me do this, because I don't think this is going to work, but let me double check. Let me try this. And I think I've messed this up. How did I do this? I did something to try to fix myself, and then I hosed myself. Oh, I know. Let me try this. Oh, there we go. All right. So I'll do it this way. So what had happened is on that, I had, during one of the remote live streams, I did it differently to get it to work, and it broke things. But anyways, my point is, if you want to get a hold of me in the live chat, if you do at DSD, it will give you a drop down of me, and then you can say question. If you have a question, here is my question. And as you can see right here, it does this nice little orange thing, which makes it easier for me to see, and I'll know you have a question. You can also do that with other people. So if you're trying to get their attention, if you do at with them, they're the only ones that will see it turn orange. And that is a good way to flag people down. If you want to support the channel and do it through YouTube, you can do the super chat thing, which is just click here, and then you can, super sticky, send an animated image. YouTube added something new. I didn't even know that was on there. So I guess you could send a super sticky, whatever the hell that is. I've never even heard of that. Super chat is what I normally talk about. You can do the slider, donate some money, give me some ice cream money, which that did work out the other day. I did take my daughter for that. Put in your message there, and it will read it and do all kinds of cool things. And okay, I just got to click on this to see what the heck the sticky thing is. What is this? Oh, wow. That is, I don't even know what to think about that. That's, okay, there you go. So they're super stickies. I don't have a clue what that would do if you did anything with that. All right, so let me go back over here. Move my windows back around, get things all together. Go back over here. Man, I'm getting myself out of sync. So if this seems like something that could be helpful for you, if you are struggling with a toxic narcissistic ex, and you've come across this channel and you have not hit the subscribe button, please consider doing so and hit the bell notification so that YouTube might, in theory, possibly notify you whenever I post a video. If you have not signed up for the newsletter, which I did send out an email about the you can go over to dadsurvivingdivorce.com. The first time you go, you'll get this really obnoxious thing pop up where you can sign up. If that doesn't show up, you can scroll down. It will be there on the right. And by popular request of many viewers, I have opened up a Patreon. So if you want to become a patron, you can do that through the website or go to patreon.com/DSD Duane and check out all the Patreon related stuff. I am planning on doing a patron only discussion through Zoom this coming up weekend. I will send out a link later. Not a lot of people on there, so we'll have to see if anyone shows up. Sorry, I'm rolling around my lens cap. So so that is that. Oh, and the last thing is, if you are interested in coaching, you can sign up for that off my website by going to dadsurvivingdivorce.com/coaching or just picking the coaching tab. So that is all the normal spiel. Let's see. We got a few people here. Oh, let's see. I see some Brittany, Duane, how to stop second yourself after dealing with these toxic people. Actually, great question, and that's partly what's going to come in on this discussion today. And how do you say that? Let me try that speech. Aparna says narc is out of life but am. I don't understand. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, guys. So I do see some other questions. Save your other questions for after we go through the main topic. And make sure you do tag me. And also, please, if you put a question early on and then we get down to it, I'm asking for questions, please do not say, oh, I asked a question up before. Can you look for it? Because it's really complicated to scroll up. And oftentimes, YouTube just deletes, the system just says, you've seen enough messages. Let me just shut those off. Anyways, let me get down to the correct spot that I hope to be in. And I'm not in the right spot. There we go. I'm trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be. All right. Sorry, hit send sooner. Oh, okay. Still anxious all the time, but I am still anxious all the time. Okay, yeah, and that is going to be the topic for tonight. Just go quickly over some people who are here. We got Schaefer One, Lyle, committed to the shift. I'm going to have to read that again. Have it read it to me. Aparna. Hey, Meg, I haven't seen you. I think you're new. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show. Brett is on. Andrew is on. Old Shawnee Road is on. Blue is on. Gregory, welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel. Brad's on. Hey, Duane. Oh, it says, hey, Duane, our degree comes from the School of Hard Knocks. Yep, that would be a true statement. It looks like we do not have a moderator in the house, so hopefully things will go well. So I'll have to keep a watchful eye out to make sure that things don't go south. So let me jump into the topic. I'll try to go through this kind of quickly so that we can get in, so it doesn't take the whole show. So, all right. Coping with anxiety. I'm going to break this up into 4 areas. One, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what anxiety is, go over the definition, what I consider the confusion, the reality of anxiety, and ways of moving forward. So the first part about this, if I can click to the right area, and I'm just going to, so first things first on what is anxiety. In my opinion, as a non-medical professional, I think there is regular anxiety, and then there's anxiety that's caused by being tortured by a narcissistic ex. There is some overlap, but there are some differences as well. So the first thing, if you are unaware of this, and I envy anybody who has no idea what anxiety is, but anxiety is the intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. Fast heart rates, rapid breathing, sweating, and feeling tired may occur. Holy crap, that's like everything that I feel all the time. Common causes, which I say is typical causes, which is going to be basically boiled down to situations outside of our situation, which I'll get into it. But anxiety can be caused by, anxiety can be normal in stressful situation as public speaking, taking a test. Anxiety is only an indicator of an underlying disease when feelings become excessive, all-consuming, and interfere with daily living. So here's the thing. There are people who just have anxiety, right? I mean, minus all of what we're dealing with, then it's a different type of thing. However, if you, well, and here, let me just roll into this, or if you have a narcissistic abusive ex, or that could be narcissistic abusive parents, siblings, coworkers, basically somebody who is taking it upon themselves to try to torture you as much as possible to drive you crazy. So here's the thing I want to just kind of dovetail on this. And we're going to get into this a little bit more as we go through this discussion, but I just want to pause for a moment and say this. There are varying causes for anxiety. I have always dealt with anxiety, and I think that a lot of it in my situation comes from the situation I was raised in, the environment, that type of thing. And what I've noticed is as things have calmed down, my anxiety has dissipated. It's still there. I mean, there are still things that bother me, but not like it used to. So let me jump into, actually, before I do that, let me see what we're saying in the thing. So just to make sure, if you guys are on track, give me a 1 so I can kind of gauge where we are in the comments, and I'll look at what people have been saying. Schaefer One says, thumbs up, everyone. Cover charge for DSD Live. Thank you very much. Share it, all that kind of good stuff. She didn't say that, but that's what I'm saying. Blue says, and living with a narc mom with signs of dementia does not help with anxiety or PTSD. Very true. Lyle says, anxiety is about the most common things we suffer from. Oh God, especially after what we've been through. You add in this stuff and it just sends it over the top. Hey, Fighting Dad is on, so we do have a moderator. Hey, Fighting Dad. Haven't seen you in a while. I know you've been busy, so thank you for hanging out with us tonight. I appreciate it. MH76 says 2, and I didn't say what a 2 was, so maybe that means, yeah, I got it off. Lyle says they should have my ex's picture in the DSM-5. Yeah, there should be an addendum with all of our exes in there. Anyways, okay. So let me jump into the next part of this, which is the confusion and triggers. Now, in my opinion, and I kind of chatted a little bit about this, but I think when you are in a situation where you are living in fear, or you post in this divorce situation or whatever, you're living in fear, that causes a lot of anxiety and stress. It's situational based, right? The other thing is it can be from past trauma from our situations. I'll tell you, Alex Falcone from The Proper Person has been doing these live streams from the courthouse. And the other day, if you guys haven't seen it, well, I'll just say there's a warning on it. He has one that he posted where there was a fight where the judge basically told the individual, no, I'm remanding you in custody because you're a danger. And there was a fight that ensued. And to be honest, watching that actually bothered me, right? That kind of caused, increased my anxiety because, it touched too close to home, right? Even though realistically, this particular person in this particular story, I wonder if I can pull it up. Let me do this. Let me go, Proper Person. I should have pulled this up before, but I think he put it on his, did he put it on his channel? Oh, he put it someplace else, darn it. He did it, I think, on the our Nevada Wizards, our Nevada Judges site. Anyways, my point is that as I was watching it, I mean, this guy is being thrown in jail, and he's like, all I want to do is see my kids and stuff. And without the whole context, I mean, it's like, it's part of the fear that I had when I was going through this about that type of thing happening. So if we have these other situations, it can absolutely cause it. And here's the other thing that is really unique and special about our situation is that when we felt better in this, in the early parts of maybe our divorce, our court, or whatever, something generally happens. The ex is able to rip the ground out from underneath us, send some extra bill or whatever, court stuff, you name it, and you don't feel safe in your environment, and you basically end up second guessing yourself on everything, which is the next part about this, which I think amplifies it. Is you get into this phase where you start questioning yourself. Well, should I, am I overblowing it? Is it real? Is it not real? Maybe this, maybe that. And you just get in this infinite do loop that just goes faster and faster and faster. Maybe some of you guys remember the worm way back when, the computer virus that was like in the mid 90s. Was it 90s or 80s? I can't remember. Where someone created a virus that just caused all the, basically everything to run and just go faster and faster and faster. It actually destroyed some gear. And I think oftentimes that's what happens in our own minds. We get so, stuck in this mode where we're just circling out of control, and it causes all kinds of additional problems. So now I know that this is kind of a different view of what a clinical, anxiety diagnosis would be. But I think it's important to understand situational and just, if you're just predisposed to have anxiety. And I do. I mean, I don't like crowds of people. I avoid putting myself in situation which causes my anxiety to increase, which I am going to get into here in a couple minutes. But if you guys are on track with that, give me a 1. And if you're being a smart aleck, give me a 2, like MH76. And I'm going to look and see what you guys are saying. All right, so I'm getting some 1s. And now it's moving all around. Brittany says, yes, I can relate. Happy Camper says, my ex-narc is the only one that causes me anxiety. That's a good example of situational anxiety. Chad says, ditto Camper. After her, I can handle anything. And then we got Sketty, if I'm saying that correct, says, as a young adult, I find myself dealing with anxiety every day. I just want to say thank you for being you, Duane. You have helped me get through so much of the past year. Well, I'm glad to be able to be of help. And thank you for saying that. John says, I get so fed up being kicked around in court. I made in my mind I was not going to be terrorized no matter what they tried. It wasn't easy, but it helped. That is key, man. And John, that really goes to that perspective change I often talk about, kind of what I talked about in that podcast from Monday. It's a frame of mind, right? I mean, if you can get to your frame of mind where you're like, okay, I'm going to fight this, but whenever they slam me and, whatever, you work it out in your head to where you can manage it. Lyle says, mind races, trouble sleeping, or falling asleep. Man, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Fighting Dad, for the 2. You guys are hilarious. That's funny. Chad says, I call it pinging. I get so anxious, then go down the what if hope. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know how many times I did that. What if this, what if that, what if, oh my God. I remember when I found out that she was hanging out with one of the local police officers, it was tough. I'm like, oh my God, what if, this guy's a douchebag and harasses me and pulls me over all the time and, uses his cover of authority to make my life miserable. And it was just, it's amazing how you can take a situation, amplify it, like I was talking about before, amplify and second guessing yourself, and it just makes it worse. So, All right, let me see what else everyone's saying, and then I'm going to move on down. Chad, 867-5309. Hey, I almost sang that. Hey, how many people? Never mind. I was going to say, how many people, when they say that number, sing it in their head? And all the younger people are like, what in the heck are you guys talking about? Scott Freeman says, take the focus off your ex. God, that is so true. John S. Building self-confidence is key. You have to know who you are, set your boundaries early on. Very true. Very true. It's also got to be careful what you surround yourself with and what information you allow into your environment and life, because it can negatively affect you. Like, for instance, what I was talking about with Alex's video clip. If, me sitting around watching that over and over again is not going to help me. I mean, you have to recognize what is not good for you and, decide how you're going to move forward. Hold on, let me double check where I am. So, because I want to make sure I all right. So I'm going to jump into the reality. All right. The reality of this anxiety. The first thing is people can tell you that you have no reason to have anxiety, which is really crappy. And I'm sure most of us have had people, why are you worried about that? Now, I will say that there were probably times that I will give, and I might even have done it earlier today, where I will give someone some advice about, there's no reason to be anxious about it. But here is the reality of it. You have to gauge the effect of it on you. In other words, what can you actually handle? There's a couple of examples I can use for this, but one of them I will use is something I've dealt with, and I know I've talked about before, is whenever you know that you have to interact with your ex and your buttons have been pushed, your anxiety is so high, your stress is so high, your PTSD is so high, that sometimes it is the appropriate decision to say, nope, I am not going to put myself in that situation. So my take on this is it's a balance, right? You have to work with what you can with your anxiety and make the best decisions that you can possibly make for you. So here's the thing. If someone is saying, oh, you should go to that event, and it's, you need to do it because of all these good reasons. You need to do it for your child. You need to do it for appearances. You need to do it for court. You need to, yada, 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 whatever it is. At the end of the day, you have to sit there and say, okay, what can I actually deal with? What is the cost to me emotionally if I go down a certain way? That's what I'm saying, is that you have to gauge it with your own situation. Again, as I was mentioning previously, there have been a handful of times where I have bowed out of school functions. Hasn't happened in a while, but early on, because I knew I was so pushed that I was unable to, I didn't trust myself to be able to deal with it in the moment. And I absolutely was concerned about the effect afterwards. And this is important too. I mean, if you have a situation where you're like, okay, I can muscle through it and I can smile and I can do my little performance, but it destroys you for the next couple of weeks, you have to really look at the cost of doing that. So I guess what I'm just saying on that is, if you are struggling with this, if you are struggling with anxiety on a particular issue, take in what other people may be saying to you, but ultimately gauge it on your thing. And this is what I will tell you, in my opinion. If you are doing that amplified circular do loop and it's causing you more stress and anxiety and chaos in your life, choose the option with no chaos. In other words, whatever the example is, if it's just driving you insane, make a decision to give you some peace For one thing, if you make the decision and say, okay, let's say you don't act on it, but let's say you say, okay, I am not going to this school function. I know we're not in school yet, but let's just follow me on this. I'm not going to go to the school function because the person is going to be there and whatever. And you make the decision and you can kind of calm down and you kind of relax. Because here's the thing. When we can kind of relax and calm ourselves down, the anxiety decreases, and then we can ration or have a rational approach to whatever is bothering us. And maybe as it gets closer, you decide, okay, I'll do it. I kind of had that problem with my son's graduation. I was so stressed and anxious about that because of a bunch of different reasons. There were a period of times where I'm like, I'm not even going to go. I'm done. I'm not, you know what? I'm done. I'm not dealing with this. And the one good thing is I didn't act on it. So I was kind of going through that circular do loop, but there were periods of time where I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to go. And by giving me a little bit of a reprieve, I was able to calm myself down, approach it differently, and then ultimately I was able to go, and I'm glad I did. But it's a lot of times it's a fight with yourself. Let me see what people are saying. Brittany says, how to stop feeling like you always the one to blame. Well, Brittany, I would say on that, especially in these situations, is it's looking at things realistically. And, I was going to say, and it's like asking the question really, I was like, are you really to blame? The problem with that, as I'm just saying about this, trying to brainstorm on this, is that, when you're really in that mode, you can be like, well, yeah, it's my fault. I created this, I should have done this. I should have done that. You got to we all got to take a pause every once in a while and just be a little kind to ourselves, because these situations are really tough. And I remember Brittany basically feeling the same way, trying to think of what I could have done differently. Maybe I should have said something differently. Maybe I should have done this. Maybe I should have done that. And it just doesn't do anything good for you. Let's see what else we have going on. Because I'm missing a few comments. If you guys are tracking with me on that, give me another one so I can, and that way it helps me break up the comments so I know what section people are talking about. Okay. Happy Camper says, I focus on the kids and not him. That's awesome. And that really is, again, I think someone else said that earlier, that really is a key. Chad says, the what if monster. I showed up to the kids' school to meet my ex yesterday. Wait a minute. I showed up at the kids' school to meet my ex yesterday. There were 2 cop cars sitting in the lot, and I had a panic attack and major anxiety. Held it together so she wouldn't see. Yeah, see, and I mean, it's one of those things where you have these ideas of what's going to happen in your mind, and that's a lot of the way this anxiety happens, is you have this catastrophic view of what you think's going to happen, and then anything that points out or anything that could potentially feed into that, it like sets it off like wildfire, easy for me to say. All right. My kids go all year around. So there's a lot of school functions. Wow. Okay. I know some people do that. They never did that here. So, okay. Chad says we're always our worst critic. That made us a target for the narc in the first place. Yeah, that's a good point. Blue says, is it me or is Duane repeating? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. I don't think I'm repeating. Hey, Rick says, I went through this the other night with the devil, and it causes me such anxiety. I want to defend myself against allies, but then I have to realize that I'm defending against crazy. Yeah, it's really tough in the early parts of this whenever you are or you feel like you need to defend every darn thing that they say. And it's really, really tough because there's a phase that we go through where we feel, well, if I don't fight back, then that means it's true. Everyone will believe it's true. I laugh as I say that because that's the way I felt. I mean, there were many a time where I fought every darn thing point by point, line by line, and it accomplished nothing other than to increase my own anxiety. And then whenever people are flying monkeys, you just, it's just tough. I'm out of focus. Lyle says he's a bit out of focus. Oh, you know what? Maybe my signal's been going up and down. I haven't been looking at my bandwidth, so I apologize for the technical difficulties that may be occurring. One of these days, maybe I will be in a different location where I won't have crappy internet. Okay. Let me see where we are. Brittany says how to not reach out to the toxic person when you are tempted to do so. I have a bunch of videos on that. I think one of them is called Don't Reach Out to the Ex. You have to stop yourself. Here's a short version. I know this can cause anxiety, so this is kind of on topic. But here's the thing. If you feel like you want to reach out, Brittany, if you're sitting there going, I need to do something. I need to email him, or I need to look at his Facebook or his Instagram. What I had to do when I was in that mode, God, this is a long time ago, so it's almost hard to believe that I was there. But what I did is I made deals with myself. This is like a dialogue I had when I was like, I need to look to see what's going on. Because I didn't really, sometimes I would reach out to her as well. I would literally say to myself, okay, I can reach out. I can look. I can. But I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to wait. Like for right now, it's 6:35 Pacific time. If I was looking at it right now, I would say, you know what? I'm not going to do it now. Maybe I will do it, or I can do it later, like before I go to bed. And then later, when I was in bed with my nifty device, going, well, now I can look. And then I would make another deal with myself, and I would say, you know what? I can look, but I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it in the morning. And that's what I did. I would make little deals with myself to say, not to say no, not to make it like a no, because here's the thing. When you make something a complete no, then it makes it harder for you to not do it. It's like, I can't have ice cream because I can't have ice cream. Well, I shouldn't. I still do, but it's really bad for my blood sugar. Anyways, that's the problem with that. If you say, no, you can't ever do it, don't ever do it. If you find yourself struggling, say, yes, I can, but I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to wait. And sometimes I would fail on that. Sometimes I would be in such a mode where I would do it. And then what would happen is, and this is the second part about this, Brittany, when you don't stop yourself, most of the time what happens is it frickin' hurts. I don't know many people who have been able to reach out or do something or look or whatever who comes out from that going, wow, I feel so much better because I did that. I think 99% of the time you come back feeling like you've just been stabbed in the heart. Recognize that too, right? Because that's kind of like part of that training of yourself and actually being mindful of what's going on and saying, oh crap, I did this. I feel worse now, and I did it to myself. And that's what I did. I mean, there was a few times where I was like, no, I'd come up with a reason. She might be taking me back to court. I need to see if I can find some type of information on what is going to happen next. Wow, that sounded whiny. But that's kind of where I would be at. And then I would convince myself, and I would look, and then I wouldn't find the information I was hoping to see, and it would just hurt me more. This is tough, Brittany. If you make a mistake, we all make mistakes, okay? This is not easy. Brittany says, I try not message the life sucker. He makes me feel like it was all my fault and make feel like crazy is a form of gaslighting. I know it's tough to type fast sometimes, but exactly, yeah. And that's typically what's going to happen if you engage with them. They are going to take their finger and go boop right in your eye and make you feel horrible. Aw.
I encourage everyone to take a magnesium supplement daily. Your nervous system must have magnesium to get calm, and 98% of us are magnesium deficient.
Excellent advice, Measure Twice. And thank you so very much for the super chat. And for you guys did hear it read that, right? So that did get captured, and you guys hear it whenever the computer reads the super chats. I am curious about that. Give me a 1 if you actually heard it read it. How's that? And it scrolled down, so now I have to look where I'm at. Mr. Skulls says the magnesium stuff works. True story. All right, cool. Glad you guys heard that. I think that's really cool when it does that. I'm glad I figured that one out. Thank you again, Measure Twice. I really appreciate the support. That is really awesome. Let's see. Oh, now I need to get... Now I'm going to go to the last part of this. Okay, so moving forward in dealing with anxiety. Bottom line, it's going to take time to treat this. And depending on why you have your anxiety, like some people said, it's, I've never had anxiety before. It only has happened with this situation. Then, more than likely, time and no contact is going to seriously help. And you will start seeing improvements. You will start seeing your anxiety go down. You'll start seeing, you won't be triggered, or you won't have PTSD whenever you see their car. Or you go to the mailbox because you're expecting, not expecting, but you're tired of letters from child support services or attorneys or whatever. But here is the reality of this. If it's severe enough, if it is causing your life to spin out of control, seek help. You do not have to go through this alone and without support. I mean, I guess maybe if you don't have any insurance or whatever, that obviously complicates things. But typically, even not a psychiatrist, you can get some type of medications to help you with anxiety from even your general practitioner most of the time. But, seek therapy. Maybe you need medication. Maybe you need medication just temporarily. Maybe it's not like one of those things like, oh my God, I'm going to be on medication forever because I have anxiety. Well, it could just be situational, and you need some time to give yourself the time to heal from this. But bottom line is you have to know your limits and what you can actually do. And what I mean by this, don't put yourself in situations that makes it worse. Don't, if a situation is increasing your anxiety, then get out. If you're around people who are causing it to go up, leave. If it's if you're watching a TV show or a movie or whatever, and it's just making you feel, it's just kind of like amplifying all that stuff, don't watch it. What I will tell you is I wonder if I can pull this up. I spend a significant portion of my time, I'm trying, all right, I'm going to do this. Okay, so this is my iTunes directory, whatever. Now this right here, this Yellow Brick Cinema, does meditation type music. Let me see if I can do this without starting. See, these are like hour-long songs. I'm not going to play them because I'll get copyright strikes, and I don't need that hassle on the channel. But I surround myself with as much mellow, tranquil things as possible. I try to focus on my breathing. I try everything to keep my life as chaos-free as possible. I wish my house was a little more cleaner because that would be better, but my darn trash, they haven't taken it away in like 3 weeks. It's really annoying. But so that's what I do. It's like if there's some other things in here, this is actually an interesting album, But, for the most part lately, I focus on this. Or I'll go to, the Apple radio station, Apple Music, and I'll scroll down and I'll listen to spa radio. And on Sirius XM in my car, I'll listen to spa. And I'll just kind of just mellow, keep things as calm as possible. And if I find myself getting more anxious or whatever, I try to eliminate those things in my life. And it's just, now I'm having problems getting everything back in line. But I mean, that's the thing, right? You know your limits, you know what you can deal with, and you don't do it to yourself. And if you're struggling with making a decision and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, this shouldn't bother me, this shouldn't be an issue, but it's really bothering you, then don't do it. And I'm trying to think of an example. I don't want to necessarily use a story from what was talked about on the Discord, but I think at the end of the day, if something's bothering you and you keep worrying about it, then just make the decision that you're done with that and move on from it. And more than likely, it'll actually cause you to feel less anxiety and less stress. MH76. Go fishing. I love that. Brittany says, great for your videos. They help. Thank you. Let me start back up at the top. John says, I went more carnivore and gave up coffee, and that helped with the stress. That is awesome, man. I'm struggling with the coffee thing. And I was having like major headaches today, and I'm not sure if it's caffeine problems or just maybe it's anxiety. Maybe I'm having anxiety. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's see. Measures Twice says magnesium cut down my anxiety by 70% when nothing else worked. I'll have to remember that. Magnesium plus a good regular multivitamin, exercise, eating right, juicing fresh vegetables, and seeking out support such as here. That is awesome. Okay, so that wraps up the topic for tonight on anxiety. If you guys liked that and that presentation, give me a 1. If you think I was lacking in some area, give me a 2. So anybody who's going to play the 1-2 game so that I know whether I hit the mark on that. Cool, I'm getting a bunch of 1s. I appreciate it. I just read Chad's comment. Touch my coffee, I gut people. I could kind of relate to that. Greg A says, make your bed. No matter what happens that day, you have accomplished something that day. Plus, you get to come home to a made bed. That, you know what? I do that every day. And it's funny because that simple little thing, just walking into the room with a made bed, makes me feel better. Walking into a clean house makes me feel better. But Greg is right. Hey, Greg, I don't know if I've seen you on here before, so welcome to the channel, welcome to the show. But I love that. That is spot on. Find little things that you can do to make you make your life better. Hey, James is on. Says, get a sleep study, Duane. Seriously, yeah, I need to do that. I was looking into that again today. I'm just, the nice part about having a PPO medical insurance, well, like most people, whatever, is it's great, but you can't afford to use the damn thing. And here's the other thing that, this is the thing that used to bother, or still kind of bothers me. Throughout the course of this 8 years, I've gone through various iterations where I'm like, hey, things are doing a little bit better. I'm going to get some stuff taken care of. And I swear to God, it's like every time that happens, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the sleep study, which is expensive, at least for me. Something happens and all my money ends up going away, or some other bill comes up and I'm like, well, I'll put that off. And I just keep putting it off because of the cost. And it's just really annoying, but I need to do something because something's not right and I need to get it back on track. I think I'm going to try that magnesium thing though. That's an interesting idea. I wonder if the multivitamin I has that. So thanks for that recommendation. I appreciate that. Let's see. Greg A says coffee is life. Nikki says, I drink coffee before bed. It relaxes me. You know what's funny, Nikki? When I was in Spain, that was kind of the way I would do it. If I went and I had an espresso, because that's what they had. Well, this was back in the day whenever they didn't have espresso shops everywhere in the U.S. And I would have a cappuccino or a latte. And there was a sweet spot that if I got home and fell asleep, I would sleep great. And then if I waited too long, I would be up all night. So, okay. All right. Now, for the people who had questions that I did not answer, please repost them. And if you want, do the super chat to make the bells and whistles go off and have a read to us. Anyways, let me scroll around and see what everyone's saying, seeing if I'm missing anything. Chad says, my home is peace. Start drama and you can leave. That is awesome. I love that. Chad says, you may have a mild form of ADHD. Mine is controlled with caffeine. That is very interesting. Lyle says, big difference for people that suffer from chronic or social anxiety disorder. Yeah, you know what's weird is I used to really struggle with that. And like a moron, or not a moron, but I ended up putting myself into a position with that promotion I had, that I had to interact with people. I had to talk to people all the time. I had to give presentations in front of people, all that stuff, all the stuff that would just make me sick. I mean, in the day, whenever I had to give a briefing, I was sick to my stomach up until I had to give it. I mean, I was like, oh my God, my anxiety would go up, my heart rate would go through the roof, all those different things. And I kind of forced myself to do a lot of things, which is kind of counterintuitive to what the advice I was just giving you on this stuff. But again, you have to understand your limits, right? I knew I wanted to get the prize I wanted to get was the promotions and stuff. So I knew there was things I needed to do. I volunteered to do a briefing next Monday. I do have to put that together, but I don't think that stuff bothers me anymore. Hopefully I'll be interested to see how that works out. I don't think it's going to be a big problem for me. Greg says, take a speech course. You have to get up in front of people. Or start a YouTube channel and point a big glass eyeball at you, because, I mean, just look at my original videos. Oh my God, I was so freaked out by trying to talk into a camera. Join Toastmasters is a good. I haven't done that, but probably that would have been a good idea back in the day. I just never did it. Brittany says, can narcs change? No. Well, anything is possible, Brittany. And in the right circumstances, maybe. 90% of the time or 99% of the time, no, because they will never do anything to recognize that they have a problem, admit that they have a problem, and absolutely not do anything to try to fix it. So you have to be really careful on that question, because when you're stressed, with like you probably are, Brittany, anybody who says, oh yes, there's a possibility, then you're like, oh my God, I have to do these things because there is a possibility. The likelihood is you probably have a better chance of winning the lottery than a narcissist, or even maybe a borderline. I mean, there is it's like a borderline might seek help. An MPD generally will not, unless they've been forced to or court ordered to. And John Esha says, they will adapt to make it seem like they change. They are still incredibly dangerous. It's one of those things to where I don't know, like let's say this. Let's say you found out that, Billy was a serial killer, but he's reformed. Okay, great, Billy. Stay the hell over there. Stay away from me, right? I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's not even, once or you've been exposed to the mask, or or not the facade, but the reality of who the person is, it's who it is. Stay the hell away from him. It's not worth it. It's not a good place to put, it's not a good situation to put yourself into. James says they can't handle the truth. That is very true. MH76 says, but if a narcissistic person can change, it will take many, 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 many years. And even then, that programming is still in them. So it's kind of like like I said, the same thing with the serial killer idea, or, you take a rattlesnake, okay, maybe you've made friends with your snake. One day, things just might be lined up right, and it just goes right back to its normal intuitive programming, and bam, the next thing you know, you're like, oh crap, I've just been bit by a rattlesnake. Just don't do it. Don't. So Brittany, I understand where you're at with this, because I mean, guys, well, let me say this, Brittany, that what you're talking about, let me see if I can pull this up. What you're talking about is the reason why my second video on my mindset for narcissistic abuse recovery is called Absolute Thinking for Recovery. Because as soon as you understand that they're a rattlesnake, that they're a serial killer, that they're a scorpion, whatever the hell it is, you say to yourself, they are this, even if it's not diagnosed. You're like, they are NPD, they are malignant NPD, or, comorbid, or whatever the hell the deal is. And that is the reality. And stay away from them. They are dangerous. It's not worth your sanity to put yourself in this mode anymore. If you have not, Brittany, if you haven't seen my mindset for narcissistic abuse recovery, check it out. Especially check out the first or the second and third video. Hybrid no contact really only pertains if you have children with them. So, let's see. Mr. Skull says mine manipulates her therapist. They will do exactly that. It's really, okay, more therapists are starting to understand this, so their ability to get away with this is starting to get less, but still, they are master manipulators. They are masters at illusion. They're masters at acting. It is their default nature to play these games and have this facade. So it makes it really easy for them to play a game with a therapist. A skilled therapist will see through it. But oftentimes they can play the game enough to where, one, if the other partner doesn't understand, then the narcissist person can play their role, focus all the attention onto the stress and anxiety that the target is dealing with, and then the therapist thinks that you're the problem instead of them. Chad says most therapists don't understand it and aren't trained to spot it. That is so true, and it is so wrong. I was incredibly surprised when I found out that most therapists don't understand it, and it's really unfortunate. It's not fair. I also want to say this, because I need to say this more often. Okay, guys, on a therapist's job is to guide you through your issue. They are not a coach. I think most of us, unless we've been working with a therapist for a long time, don't understand that. We think, I thought, go to this person, tell them my problems, they're going to tell me what it means and point me in the right direction. That is not their job. Their job is to listen to your story and help you figure it out. The problem is if you don't understand that their responses are to help you figure it out, you can think that their lack of, yes, you're right, can mean that you're wrong. An example for me where that happened to me is early on in this, and I'm trying to figure out whether I should, should I stay, should I leave? And, my therapist at the time was, well, what do you think you should do? How does it make you feel? That type of stuff. And it wasn't until I made the decision that I was done that the person said something along the lines of, wow, I was wondering if you were going to make that decision. A therapist is not a coach. They are not going to say, hey, Duane, I've listened to your situation, and these are the things you should think of. Well, they might say the things you should think about, but these are the three courses of action that you can take, right? They're typically not going to do that. That's not really their job. I know I'm kind of hammering this point home, but that's only because I think I swear to God, therapists should remind people of that. It should be like, okay, we're starting our session today, and just so you know, I am not a coach. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to help you understand your situation, see everything, and make your own decisions for you, right? There's a whole ton of ethics and everything that go along with professional therapists on why they're able to do it, which is why some people really like life coaches, because they can. Like for instance, a therapist cannot, like all the different the stories that I'm telling you, like happen with me, they can't do that. You know, if you're sitting there and you're struggling with anxiety and you're freaking out, and the therapist is going, "Holy crap, you know, I know exactly what Billy's dealing with." They cannot say, "Well, you know, Billy, I deal with that too," and they can't, right? So, all right, I'm done driving that point home. If you guys get that, can you give me a one on that so that you get it? And because I think a lot of people don't, and I think it's a huge disservice. Let's see. Narcissistic Abuse Rehab says they love tricking therapists. My next had 2 therapists and neither knew about the other. That doesn't surprise me. That does not surprise me. Chad says it took me talking to my therapist after my first vid from you. It changed the whole course of my treatment. See, now here's the other thing that's really interesting, I think is really great about channels like this, right? Because if you could use some of my videos, if you could go to your therapist and say, "Hey, I watched this Knucklehead Duane's video on blah," and if they actually are open to it, they can use that as a driver for discussion to do things, and it can actually really help. Old Johnny Rose says, your description of a therapist almost sounds like a lawyer. Yeah, except that a lawyer is like $300 an hour, and a therapist is, you know, like what, with a copay, like $25 maybe. I guess if you use BetterHelp, it's a little bit more, but you have more access, which I think is kind of cool. JS says, "Amen, old Shawnee Road." Hey, JS, I didn't see you pop on. Welcome. Lyle says, "But they don't present themselves like a duck to the people around them." That is true. They really do hide. They really do hide who they are. Let me look. Let me look at what's going on down here. Oh, that's true. I didn't watch it. Narc Abuse Recovery says they made fun of the narc therapist dynamic on The Sopranos. I didn't watch that. I never watched that whole thing, but I do remember that was a big part of it. I watched like the first season, and it just wasn't really my thing. Measure Twice has insider tip. Fill your life with people that demonstrate integrity. Integrity is a trait that you want in friends and spouses. Also develop integrity yourself. It's insurance against narc abuse. Yeah, and it also helps build healthy boundaries. Chad says $75 cash on the barrelhead per session for me. I don't have insurance other than the VA, and that's the worst. And that's worse than dealing with a narc. Yeah, it's tough when it's. Chad, I did for a while there. I was going to a therapist that wasn't on insurance, and it was just eating my lunch. I think I was paying $80, and it was just back in the day whenever I was completely broke, and it was not a fun experience to say the least. John says my therapist actually started looking into the possibility that my ex may have a mental disorder after I showed some videos and other information. Scott says $150 a session since custody counseling expert. Oh, man. That sucks if you don't have the money for it. Oh, Measure Twice says, here in Houston, I found multiple. Most will do a lot will do sliding scale. I found multiple that will take $50 cash a pop. All right, JS says, Duane, I do believe if we worked on ourselves and our triggers, we will fare better moving forward in our lives. Oh, it's critical. JS, that is, you absolutely, if you don't do that, you'll just repeat the same darn situation. I'm still a work in progress on this topic too. Yeah, it takes time. I mean, I was really struggling with this for like the first 4 years. Brittany says, why do narcs lie about you? Can they ever tell the truth? Can they ever tell? Well, see, philosophically, could they? Maybe. They lie about you because they have their own. Well, partly it's two things. They want to cut off any support and any credibility to you, right? So if they attack you and tell lies about you and smear you, then if people buy into it, then you lose your support. You lose your friends. You lose your family. You lose anybody that might be able to help you. The second part is if they smear you, and typically when they're lying about you, they're saying you're crazy, you're, whatever. Basically, they're attacking your credibility so that whenever you are attacking them, you don't have any credibility. So Marcus123 says, saw my first therapist 2 years. Blew me away when he started talking about boundaries. Was all new to me. Can't believe how much we can learn in only 2 years. And I don't mean to laugh, but the incredible part on this is I was the same way, right? I mean, it's like all these concepts that are just simple. Boundaries. It's like mind blown, and it shouldn't be, right? I mean, it's like we are in these situations just struggling, trying to keep our our lives afloat. And then as we go through this and our worlds have been just obliterated, we start looking, it's like, yeah, if I would have had good boundaries, I wouldn't have put up with that stuff. If I would have worked on my not my ego, what's the word I'm looking for? Self-esteem, that's what I'm thinking. The word was right on the top of my head. If I would have worked on my self-esteem and I felt good about myself and that I deserved more, then I would have been able to have good boundaries. And then when I would have been willing to stand up to those boundaries, because if the person doesn't love or respect me enough to respect my boundaries and respect me, then they don't deserve to be in my life. But what happens is we're so scared and we have such a low self-esteem, and we don't want to lose the beautiful person, monster, that we have in our lives, that we just put up with it. I don't know how many times there were issues that I was like, oh man, I'm really irritated by this. And I would have this dialogue with myself, and I would be like, is it really important enough for me to bring up? I mean, if I bring this up, it's going to make, in my situation, it's going to make her mad. I mean, what if she leaves me? What if the relationship falls apart? Is it really worth the, I would have these dialogues in my head, and I would be like, no, it's not worth it. I mean, I'm not going to risk this. I'm not going to risk losing this wonderful relationship that was killing me. Anyways. All right. I like this. Andrew says, the next narcissistic X sandwiches a tiny partial truth in between two or more of other lies and always leaves themselves a way out or an escape hatch. That is so true. And a lot of times that manifests itself in taking things out of context. Well, that's exactly what he just said, but taking things out of context. I'm trying to remember. I remember, let's see, one story I can remember right off the top of my head is we were going to marriage counseling. Then everything falls apart. The ex is like, are we still going to go to marriage counseling? And I'm like, why would we do that? We did, and it didn't work, and we're breaking up. Well, so what was the story? What was the story that was told to everyone after we broke up? That Duane wouldn't go to marriage counseling, that she wanted to, and I refused to go. A little bit of truth, right? I mean, yes, there is some truth in that statement, but it's not a truthful statement. So that was the same thing. That was the other story about, I abandoned the family. Now was it said that I made sure everything, that all the, electricity and everything was still connected, and that she was giving her money and all that kind of stuff? No. But did I leave? Yes. So there was some truth to, I abandoned the family. They will do that. They will absolutely do that. Okay. JS says, Duane, that's correct. We didn't learn boundaries from our own toxic parents or family, and that is one reason why we get involved with narcs. That's a huge reason why we do it. Narcissistic Abuse Rehab says, and the thing is, getting rid of the narc is the best thing that can happen to you. Yes, that's very true. It only hurts because we're trauma bonded. What in the world is that? A hole. That is so true. And it's really, really tough. And it looks like my signal's bouncing back and forth. Okay, so we've been going on for an hour. I do not think there were any other questions. I will wait a couple minutes. So if somebody has a question on that, I would say, can't think of a good question to ask everybody. I kind of put myself on the spot, and I came up empty. Measure Twice says, yes, codependent personalities are drawn to narcissists. It is a famous attraction dynamic. Codependency stems from family of origin issues when parents were emotionally cold or abusive. Yep. I can relate to that one right there. Okay, let me grab E's question. Hey, make sure whenever you ask a question, you tag me too, so it makes it orange, so that way I see it better. Okay, so E's question says, Duane, when your kids are adults, do you think about telling them about NPD of other parent? Not for revenge, just to prevent the kids from having lifelong exasperation from not knowing. I would, that one you're going to have to gauge as you go. What I would say, if they were asking you questions and they're adults, they're like majorly into adulthood, then you can have more open conversations. I definitely wouldn't do it with 18-year-olds, or it's like, okay, you're an adult, let's sit down and have a conversation. And it would be one of those things where if they ask a question, if they are, if they come to you and say, hey, Dad, man, why are all my relationships bad? You can use that as a segue into it. I kind of have done a little bit of that. I do not say NPD. I do not talk about personality disorders. I talk more about the behaviors. I have done that with, to some extent, I've done it to all my kids. I'm a little more standoffish with my middle daughter because just where she's at emotionally and mentally. My oldest and my youngest, who's almost 14, will be 14 in August. So that's my take on that. Let's see. Lyle says, Duane, I would have assumed most of us don't leave the narc, like myself, kicked out of my own house. Yeah, you're right, Lyle. Most don't. I think I'm kind of an anomaly on that I did. And I think I kind of beat her to the punch. And partly it was just I was changing in my method of thinking. And I just, whenever, bottom line is when it came down to it, and when I asked her that simple question, is the relationship important? And the answer was, I don't. Actually, I found out just recently, my son said that he heard that. He remembers that conversation. He said it blew his mind whenever mommy said, I don't know. And he was like, what? What the hell? What do you mean? Aw.
Duane, we love ya, bro. Pound it.
Thank you from the light of the darkness. Thank you so very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. You just have to gauge it. Well, and I think if I remember correctly, your kids are young, so this is something to deal with much later, and just be careful. I would absolutely say just be very careful, right? I mean, if they come to you and they say, hey, I think mom's a NPD, well, that's a different story, right? And then you can say, well, really, why do you think that? I mean, where'd you hear about that? And see where they're at, but just be cautious. Be very, very cautious. Brittany says, how do you super chat? Okay, Brittany, there's a couple ways you can do it. Let me, since you're asking, you in YouTube on a computer or a Mac, in the chat where you can type stuff, you got these things where you can do the emojis, right? Or this little $sign. If you hit the $sign, it will give you the opportunity to do a super chat, which is to send that highlighted message where it reads and sends a couple of bucks to me. I appreciate it. So, oh dear God, and said you can see it. Lyle says, Lyle says, don't say beat her to the punch. He's actually a really good point. I mean, I know tongue in cheek a little bit, but he has an excellent point, because oftentimes in these situations, especially with the toxic narcissistic ex, they will take anything and everything you say out of context and use stuff like that against you. So, excellent point. Let's see. You have to have a pay. Blue says, but you have to have a PayPal account. Do you? I don't know. I don't remember what I know I did that in the past to set it up, but I don't remember how I did it, to be honest. So I don't know if it's through PayPal or through, I don't know. I will have to look that up after. And, oh man, I touched my microphone. I've been trying not to do that all show. All right. So, E, did that answer your question? And if you give me a 1, you guys, if you liked my answer, so I can check some other thing. JS also says, in my case, DSS was called regarding my ex. I am hopeful it will help moving forward with custody. What's DSS? DSS, Department of... I'm drawing a blank. I shouldn't be drawing a blank. Oh, Measure Twice says, I give Super Chat with my credit card. Okay, so it is. That's what I thought. I thought you loaded something to it. It's just been a long time. The first time you do it, you have to set that up, and then once you have it, it ties to it. Department of Social Services? Department of Social Services. Is that kind of like, I'm thinking of CPS, Child Protective Services? Is it kind of like that too? Denali says 1, great answers. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Measure Twice says, on the chat line at the dollar. Okay, I don't need to say that because I already went through that. So, JS, I still think you should go to the Department of Child Support Services to do enforcement. Yeah, same as okay. So in California, it's CPS. I wonder if California has a DSS or if it is CPS. So okay. Oh, all right. So now I'm getting okay. In my case, DSS was called regarding my ex. Hey, JS, was that? Did you call or did someone else say, "Hey, something's wrong," and they called? Did like the school or somebody call? So. John says it's the place that takes your kids' rights. Ugh. Man, I mean, you know, oh, you have. Oh, okay. Sometimes it seems like whenever I mean, I know Alex is often recommended against doing it ourselves because I think they have a tendency to look at it that it's being used for effect. Oh, someone else. I did not call DSS. Someone else reported my ex. Whereas when someone else calls, then a lot of times they will look at it a little differently. So, well, let's see. It's not good that that's a situation that someone felt the need to do that. However, I know I know your story. And it's good that someone else is doing it because the problem is, like, I'm sure, if whenever you do that, when you do it or we do it, it really creates some extra havoc because they don't necessarily look at it. But when other people are mandatory reporters, like if your son, like you said, your son said something, if your son said something to someone that's like, oh crap, I have to report this, the magic words were said and now I have to make the call because it's a liability issue. Yeah. So hopefully that will help you. Oh, wow. Huh. Measure Twice says some people have preemptively, anonymously contacted CPS on themselves in order to prove their home situation is okay via a house check. Oh my God. That would not be a move. I can understand the logic behind that, but that's kind of scary. So Chad says, my ex filed false accusations through DFS. It happens so much that they don't take her complaints anymore. Yeah, and it ultimately starts hurting their credibility. And depending on how the family court is, that could ultimately result in change of custody. Narcissistic Abuse Rehab says, these topics are heavy, but this show is still uplifting. Aw, thank you. I appreciate that. I know it's weird balance, right? I mean, because I was talking to Mike, my buddy. He was checking out the podcast from the other day, and he's like, even before I opened it up, it seemed like it was going to be a uplifting video just the way it looked. I'm like, it was not really. It was kind of a tough topic. He said, yeah, I know, but it's just like the setting was better. So I thought that was interesting feedback. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that in the microphone. Mr. Skull says, oh, sweet. Just got the notification that DSD is live. Better hop on that. Are you serious? Oh, my God. An hour and 20 minutes into, is it an hour and 20? Yeah, hour and 16 minutes into it. Oh, hey, he's live. You might want to jump into that. Oh, dear God. Oh, man. Thank you for throwing that. I mean, thanks for the laugh. I mean, it's sad is what it is, which is why I sent out an email notification. I don't know if you guys got that. How many people, let me ask this, how many people on here got the email notification saying, hey, I'm going live now? Give me a 1 if you got that. Hopefully you guys got it. Let me see. That's just priceless. Okay, cool. MH76. Oh, MH76 had a joke and I missed it. This is tragic. Oh, how many narcissists does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. Narcissists don't use light bulb. They use gaslighting. Nice. Brittany says, any coping for PTSD? Yeah, maybe I'll make another whole video. Maybe that's what I'll try to do the next live stream on. Yes, there are things you can do. Richard Granion does a lot about CPTSD and PTSD. And I don't know if I made a lot of videos on that. I need to look into that, Brittany. I know that doesn't give you a great answer, but we're going to have to start wrapping this up here shortly. The super chat. Brittany says, is Super Chat, you have to have a link, account is linked with YouTube? Sorry. Well, you have to be logged in, which you are. So you can, honestly, Brittany, all you should have to do is just hit the button. And if it's not, if you aren't configured, it should basically say, hey, you're not configured. We have to do this first. Because I remember the first time I went to do it on a channel. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to do a Super Chat because I really like what this guy's doing. And it was like, oh dear God, what a pain. I had to go through all that stuff to be able to do it. So Measure Twice says, Richard Granion is my go-to guy here on YouTube for PTSD. So he's pretty huge. Let me pull Richard Granion. We're talking about this guy. 140. I'm not subscribed to him. Wow. Oh, you know what? I've kind of undone some stuff just because, or is it a different account? I don't remember. But anyways, that's who we're talking about. Don't tell him I'm not subscribed. Oh, no. Oh my God, I don't want to be playing his stuff on my channel. That would be not good. So, yeah, some people like him. Some people don't. He did help me way back in the day, back when he was in Malaysia. Actually, to be honest, it was probably around the same size channel. I think he was at 20,000 when I found him. And then he just kind of kept growing and growing and growing. So the only thing I will say, just as a little caveat, there's a lot of people and personalities on YouTube. Check out who you want. If they work for you, great. If someone says, hey, check this guy out, and you look at it and you're like, this isn't good for me, then that's okay too. It's all about you. It's all about you and your recovery and trying to get you to the place you need to be. Lyle said 0. Oh, bummer. Measure Twice says also Duane has hypnosis tapes. He recommends that help. Yes, that is true. Okay. All right, guys, I am going to wrap this up. Thank you for spending your Tuesday with me. If you haven't gone over to Dad Surviving Divorce and signed up for the newsletter, please consider doing that. Whoops, let me get in the right screen. If you join up there, you can sign up right there, get on my mailing list. If you want to be a patron and support what I do on this channel and be on the weekend thing that I'm going to do, you can do that right here from the website. You can also make a donation if you want to. The resources, what Measure Twice was talking about, I have a page on that, and I have some books I recommend, and what she was talking about is this hypnosis stuff that really did help me, that could potentially, if you're really struggling, I would consider hypnosis. It did work for me. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. And I am basically kind of back to a normal schedule. So kids are on a normal schedule again. So the last 3 weekends have all been with the kids, and I had what was it that I also had? I had my vacation time with them, which I had them all for the week, which made it difficult to keep up with some stuff. So I'm way behind on a lot of things I have to get back on. Rick says, have you done any videos on depression of missing your kids when they're not with you? I have, Rick, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know if I'd be able to find them. There's like a handful of videos that are like burned into my head so I can get to them fast, but those other ones where that question doesn't come up as much, I probably should make another video on that. If you guys have not checked out or have not listened to the podcast, make sure you check that out. Let me go back here before I finish. So there was a video version. That's this one right here. When you feel like giving up, has a narcissist defeated you? Episode number 28. You can also find that in your podcast player like iTunes and Stitcher and all those different things. So consider, if you are into podcasts, subscribing. Is it subscribing? I guess it's called subscribing to that. But I have been trying to make video versions of it as well. And actually, it's doing pretty good. I mean, 1,000 views. I normally don't get that on the podcast. So thank you guys for that. I appreciate it. On that, guys, back on the anxiety thing, just understand that it takes time to work through all of this. Don't understand what your limitations are so you don't basically make things worse on yourself. So on that, have an outstanding night. I will see you in the next video, and I will see you in the next live stream. Oh, Brittany says, what's your podcast called? Break the Cycle with DSD. Thank you for asking. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.